there's three of us going to be talking to you today. Myself, Steve Bond, we've got Kieran McGarry and Laura Cantliff, who are going to be joining us in a few minutes. So Autek, my view of Autek, and I was one of the co-founders with Alex Carter and Nathan Kiley. We formed this round about a year ago, as we said, is to think about alternative employment pathways. We started off autism, and we've developed over the year into a much more broad disabled people service. But the really key thing here, and I think this goes back to what we've heard in the previous two talks, is that we want work that engages interests. So if somebody's got a particular special interest, or something that really interests them, and they've developed talent in that area, that's kind of what we want to work with. So this is kind of the model that we've created within Autek. At the moment, Autek comprises 7 directors and 2 staff. So you've seen we've grown, and that's very shortly, when I get contracts organised, going to become 3 staff that are working for us. So we're gradually building and growing. We've had a tremendous amount of support over the last year. I've got 2 little logos at the bottom there. There could be hundreds and hundreds of other ones of them, but particularly Enableability. We've got a partnership arrangement with Enableability that allows us to deliver a lot of our services as well. And NHS Solent Trust, you'll see a lot of our work has been delivered for the NHS Solent Trust. They've really taken on board what we've done and given us loads and loads of work. So we're incredibly grateful for them, but many other organisations as well. So what I'm going to do is, because we are fundamentally a video production company, that's just the way that you bring people into an organisation, and then you kind of work out what you're going to do. That's the way that we've sort of moved this. So we are a video production company. What I'm going to do is quickly walk you through a year of our delivery. So this is just a way of showing you the sort of things we've done and the sort of places that we've been over the last year. And this is great for me, because I've got so much content that the guys that I work with have produced that I can make this really nice and graphic and I hope fun to go through. I'm going to talk quite quickly because it's quite a journey. So we started off a year ago at Falcon House, and so this is the sort of things that we create. So we create these panorama images, we put them together in virtual tours. We call it a What's It Like service, so helping autistic people, disabled people, or people who live with anxiety accessing places and services that they need to go to. So we started our journey at Falcon House. This is a CAMS organisation in Portsmouth, part, as you can see, of NHS Solent, and that was the first place that we visited. If I click on these targets, it then takes us through. So the next sort of place, or the thing that happened, as you probably all know, was that COVID struck. So we were halfway through filming in Battenberg House, and COVID totally changed all the arrangements. They had to set up COVID stations, and access all changed and everything. So this is the next stage in our journey, is that we had to go back to places and change what we'd done already to make sure it was current. So there's no point saying what's it like in a place if it doesn't address COVID, because that's one of the main anxieties that was around at the moment. So from Battenberg House, we then moved on. The next set of anxieties that we came to was, oh crikey, GPs. What on earth is going on for GP? How do I ever contact a GP in the middle of the pandemic? What's it like in there? How safe is it going to be? So we, in this case, Stubbington Medical Practice, we went there and we had a look inside. This is one of the GP consulting rooms, and you can see the chair you'll sit where the GP is. You've got the sanitizer there. This is part of a tour that takes you in from the entrance of the place right the way through the reception, the waiting rooms, and into this consulting room. Following that, we then, COVID vaccinations, you probably remember these. So we provided a What's It Like service for people who are accessing the COVID vaccination. The next step through, I'm going to increase the pace. We then went back to school. Everyone was then starting to think, well, schools, we've got year 7 transition, we've got new people coming into our schools. How on earth can we get them into school and show them what the place is like, talking about it? So we went to Warblington School and we created a virtual tour for them. Of course, during our tour, we had to visit loads and loads of toilets. Pretty much everywhere we go, but putting toilets in is a source of anxiety. So we had to make sure that we covered those, lots and lots of toilets. We weren't totally inside. Once the spring and summer came along, we managed to get ourselves out to places. So this is now at the wonderful Qe2. You can see how gorgeous the place is. Qe2 Activity Center, where people with learning disabilities go and engage in a range of activities. Absolutely fantastic service if you don't know it. We then went on from there and we did some cricket. So we worked with Hampshire Disability Cricket to say, what's it like to come and play cricket for us so we can get new participants to come in and play there. So we went and visited Cricket Ground and did lots and lots of filming around there. We then carried on, and Alex Carter, who's on this journey, he took a trip to the top of Butser Hill. I didn't because I had a sore ankle on the day. So this is now the panorama view at the top of Butser Hill, and this was trying to encourage people sort of coming out of lockdown to start getting out and getting exercise and getting back their mental health through connecting with nature, which I'm sure Chris Packham would fully endorse for us. So that's the panorama view at the top of Butser Hill. We also went to hospitals. So this, some of you in Portsmouth will certainly recognise this hospital. This was for breast screening. We did a tour for that. We've also been to Gunwharf Quays, and we've created a virtual tour with a whole pile of it. This is by far and away the biggest piece of work we've done in terms of videos and the virtual tour. There's the Spinnaker Tower. And then we've kind of ended up the journey where we started, which is really cool. So this is now back to Falcon House again. And this is what the waiting room was like. So if you remember, I showed you the entrance before. This is what the waiting room, the main waiting room with the reception over there for Falcon House. And that was what it was like when we first went there. But of course, things change. And that's what it looks like now. And so we had to go back, create some new panorama images to show everyone what's it like now. There's no point showing somebody what it was like 6 months ago. It's got to be kept current and up to date. So that's like a year in our journey. That's where we've been to, and that's just a small proportion of the stuff. There's a whole bunch of other things that I couldn't include in that whistle stop tour. We have a web app. I'll just show you this so you can see on the logos all of the people, or pretty much all of the people that we've been working with. And if I was to click on one of those, we'd go and have a look at Hampshire Disability Cricket. We've got that created now, and we're just going through a development phase. As you can see, it's getting a bit cluttered at the bottom. We've got so many customers now that we're going to rearrange that into a new way so that people can access the content and the beautiful calming screen. This is kind of what we're about. We're trying to create apps and processes that work for autistic people and keeping people calm, making it so it's not confusing. So that's why we need to change it, because it is confusing now, but making sure there's not lots and lots of links and bits and pieces on there. This is just, you want to access something, you click on it and you're in there. So I wanted to just now very briefly, before I hand you over to Kieran, who's going to talk about sort of business development and what's next for us, is just to show you a couple of the innovations that we've done. And this is where the technology really may fail me. So again, apologies for the clunkiness. So one of the things that we've created is what we're starting to call easy view videos. So if I just maximize this, so most of you, I'm sure, will be well aware of easy view reports and things that people create. Well, Alex is one of our main creators, and Alex Carter has created this new way of doing videos. I'm just going to play it and shut up for just a couple of minutes so you can see how it works.
Have you been wondering what it's like to have the COVID-19 vaccine? In this film, we hope to show you what it's like to go to the vaccine centre. We will tell you what you need to do before you go to the vaccine centre, what will happen when you're there, and what to expect afterwards. When it's your turn to have the COVID-19 vaccine, the NHS will send you a letter. You will need to have...
So the idea that you can see there with what we're doing with that is that we're using that format of very, very simple sentences, one topic per sentence. You can either watch the lady talking about it, or you can, if you want, you can still hear the words and look at the images. So you've got a number of ways of accessing in very, very simple to understand terms what's going on with that. And that's kind of what we're trying to achieve with these, what we call easy view videos. It's particularly for people with learning disabilities. We've got another variant of the same, which is Makaton signing, which is really important. So I'm going to maximize that again. So if you listen to this.
Have you been wondering what it's like to have the COVID-19 vaccination? When it's your turn to have the vaccination, the NHS will send you a letter.
So as you can see, it's the same video, it's giving the same content, but it's doing it in a very, very different way. And that's kind of what we need to do, so because all of the people who look at and watch our services, they're all different. And so it's really trying to find ways of getting that message over. And you note that in the Makaton signing, we don't have the easy read variant of it. There's no point having pictures coming up. Your eyes need to be focused on the signing. So that's how we do that, but with a very, very plain, easy background, which was why we've used the walls, and we had some feedback from people with learning disabilities in terms of how to make that work. And the final thing, the final innovation, again, entirely down to Alex Carter, is what we call the point of view video, or the walkthrough video. Again, I'm just going to set this running so you can see how it works.
Welcome to Gunwharf Quays, waterfront outlet shopping in the heart of Portsmouth. This is the main tunnel entrance that is from the Hard Interchange, train station, bus links, Whitelink Ferry and Gosport Ferry into Gunwharf Quays. As you walk through the tunnel, you descend down under the train bridge, which may be loud with trains overhead.
So this is a new way of providing information. You can see the content of it is a video.
As you exit the tunnel, you'll see on your left-hand side the taxi rank.
And the information is
as
provided
you reach the
as you
zebra crossing,
walk through it.
You'll start to incline up to the main shop
I can
level.
pause it because she's talking over me. And obviously at the top left hand you can see this map. So it's for orientation purposes. Gunwharf Quays is a massive place. So it just gives people an idea of where you are as you're progressing through the video. So that's my sort of fun bit over, all the colourful content and everything. Very happy to take questions at the end, but I'd like to hand over to Kieran now, who's going to talk a little bit about his experiences within Autek.
So yeah, my name's Kieran. I'm the, as it's so eloquently put on the slide, the business development manager for Autek. I just want to talk a little bit about why I joined, and then some of the things we're doing and some future plans. So I got approached by Alex Carter, who has been mentioned a few times already, because they were creating Autek and wanted people with a range of disabilities to be part of the team in working towards making these videos. Now, as I'm trained as an actor, I'm now doing a PhD in disability studies. So I'm looking at ways of making performance lives easier for people with disabilities, and this seemed like a natural fit in terms of gaining some experience in the ways that disabled people are held back in society, and maybe ways of helping. For us as Autek, the main USP, if you want to call it that, in a marketing sense, is that we are experts by experience. We all have some experience of anxiety dependent on our disability. For instance, I have depression and anxiety clinically, so I have that experience, and the rest of the board plus anyone who we employ has some kind of experience with anxiety going to places. That includes kind of this idea of lived experience. We try to make sure that we are making things, and we talk about the things we go through as disabled people, and how we might find it easier to go to somewhere or during these What's It Like tours, and that's a main part of how we work. So everything is done by disabled people in a way that works for disabled people. But more than that, and going back to what was said in one of the previous videos, is that it's about employment. We are making sure that anyone we employ, given the right opportunities, is part of the disabled community, whether that be autism or whether it be like myself, I'm visually impaired. That we're doing things to help people get into employment, because as it was said, the employment rates for people with autism is extremely low, and that goes across the board to lots of different disabilities. So it's one of those main parts of what we do. Now, I think what's really important is that what we do is video production. So a lot of that work that is done is to do with that. And while in the video before it said that autistic people shouldn't be just categorized as being able to go into tech, a lot of what happens is that they are in our company, at least, in video production, which is great. They're finding, like Steve said, what they enjoy doing, and as long as it is what they enjoy doing and it's what they want to do and it's what they're comfortable doing, then we are giving them the opportunities to do that. And I think, as you can see from what Steve has shown, we are doing that in a way that is proper and that is good for the community. We are trying to move along a little bit in terms of it not specifically being about autism, like Steve said before. Like I said, I'm visually impaired, and we are now looking at expanding the What's It Like experience to people with visual impairments. As a visually impaired person myself, I know how difficult it can be to go to a new place, not knowing what things look like, not knowing the layout, not knowing the dangers, the obstacles, the trip hazards that can be in place at somewhere that you've never been before. Normally, I have to go somewhere with someone, either my fiance or someone else, who would be able to kind of take me through some of those pitfalls if they can. So we're trying to make something that does the same job as the What's It Like videos that works for people with anxiety, to move that towards people with visual impairments, and that is a whole lot of different challenges. So that's something new that we're looking at. And the other thing is that obviously we're looking at things at the moment in so Portsmouth, Southampton, this area of the country. We are now looking at expanding that down to Plymouth, which is where me and Laura, who will be speaking in a minute, we are both in Plymouth doing PhDs, both to do with disability. So we have the opportunity to expand what we're doing to another place to help a whole new set of people, and employ and engage the disabled community in Plymouth in the same way that we're doing it in Portsmouth and Southampton and the rest where we are. The last thing I want to say before I hand over to Laura is that we are now looking at a project called What's My Anxiety, which is a set of videos, documentary style videos, that look at what anxiety is for people with disabilities, different disabilities. So whether it be autism, whether it be visual impairment, whether it be deaf and hard of hearing, whatever it may be, there are always going to be different anxieties that come from having that disability. So we are looking for people to get involved. Anyone that has experience in that field or who wants to be involved in that, please contact us, because we're always looking for different people to help us and make that a reality. As all we do is funding and being paid by different companies to make things. We need funding for that. And yeah, that's my bit done. I hope I've been informative and helpful. I know I rambled on a little bit and I didn't have any visual aids with like Steve did. But I will now hand you over to Laura, and she can tell you a bit more about some other stuff that we're doing. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me too. My name's Laura. I am the Business Support Officer at Autek. What that means is that I help organise and coordinate our video production team, who are amazing. I track workflow and delivery of our services, and probably the biggest thing that I do is I liaise between staff and Steve. So a lot of emailing to Steve. But I also take care of other administrative jobs as well. Some background about me: I am an autistic and dyslexic ADHDer. I'm also a dance graduate. I have a master's in performance training, and I am, like Kieran said, currently working towards a PhD that focuses on neurodivergent creative arts practice. So it was really special for me to hear Wen speak today, because I'm very much at the beginning of my journey as a researcher. It was lovely to hear from someone who's sort of seasoned. I'm also a freelance dance practitioner, and I lead movement workshops for disabled people who might not have access to mainstream or commercial dance classes. On paper, I don't come across as the kind of person who would want to work in business support for an immersive technology company. By no means am I tech savvy. I do not fit the autism stereotype. And Steve and Kieran will attest to this, that technology actively sabotages my life. But here I am. And it turns out I do actually have the stuff to do this job. And some of that comes from my creative experience, and some of it comes from my lived experience as a neurodivergent disabled person. As an autistic person, I rely heavily on regulating most of my life. I thrive on organization and routine, and I tend to document and analyze every moment of my life because that's the best way for me to process everything that happens to me. Um, I know what it feels like to have anxiety about going to new places or even familiar places. I also know what it feels like to exist in places where accessibility is very much at the bottom of the agenda or not on the agenda at all. All of these things are experiences and skills that have application to my work at Autek. I was first introduced to Autek by Kieran after I essentially ranted to them about the difficulties of working as a disabled person. When I joined Autek, my position was not something that already existed in the company. I was the first contracted member of staff, starting a new role of project support officer. My initial task was to create a system of organization to keep track of all of our projects because new work coming in very quickly. Um, when I joined the company, I was really taken aback. I thought, oh my gosh, this must be such a busy time. I'm sure when these projects are finished, everything will calm down and I'll have time to. No, everything got fast and it stayed fast. Things have not calmed down. But it's actually really great. It shows that what we do is necessary and important. And it's also great for me because my job is never finished. And in fact, it's evolving into something more. Um, there's always another project in the works and we are always growing. And because of this, I'm now moving into a new role of business support officer. We're also now moving to contracted work for some of our video production team because we have such high demand for their time and their skill set. For many of us, what started as a small part-time job or a freelance job is now moving into our main job. This is what I do now, which is great. There is also a great opportunity for personal growth in the company. So something that's really exciting me is what Kieran just talked about, the What's My Anxiety project. This is the first project where my role is not strictly as business support officer. I'm part of the production team and I'm learning a lot from the video producers who have a lot of experience in making something like this. I can contribute my management skills to the project, and in exchange, I'm soaking up all of their knowledge, which will then in turn make me better at my business support role. So it's a great way to learn and grow. I also feel it's especially important for projects like this one to be disability-led, and this is the case for everything that Autek does. Being disabled and working for a disability-led company who make disability-orientated work is new for me, but it has changed the way that I approach my working life in general as a disabled person. From my experience in most workplaces, accessibility and inclusivity are not considered a priority. Working in Autek is possibly the most comfortable I've felt in my identity as a disabled person in work. It doesn't mean it's not really hard or really stressful or scary, which it is, but it hits way different. At Autek, accessibility is a part of every conversation that I have every day. And not just accessibility for me, it's accessibility for the video production team, our new staff, our board of directors, our customers, and our viewers who rely on our content to go to new places. In other workplaces, disability is more of a taboo subject, and accessibility is not usually part of any conversation. And it's in the past become my burden to raise accessibility with my employers, to disclose my access needs. And usually those are not equipped to support me in the way that I need. And it can be very frightening and intimidating. In a disability-led workplace like Autek, I feel confident to say what access I require to do my job. And part of my job is also making sure that my colleagues have their access needs respected too, so that we're all in a place that we can do our best work. I'm really excited to see what happens with Autek for the next year. This first year has been pretty hectic. We're hoping as our company evolves and our services are expanding, that our team of people can also continue to grow as well. And that is, well, I'll make that my final note, is that we are always looking for new people. Our team has grown a lot over the last few months, and our workload continues to grow as well. We need help and skills and experiences of other disabled people who might be interested in what we're doing.